Tardes, muchas gracias por la invitación, muchas gracias Elisa, muchas gracias a la
Communication Policy Regulation for inviting me to be with you in this panel. And so going back to the questions that you sent us, Elisa, regarding this matter, well, you, in one of the questions, commented on whether had we moved from network infrastructure towards a base of reports that can improve the competitive position of several companies that are facing competition from OTTs. So that's the comment I would like to mention, and what we have been proposing within the telecommunication system for the new administration, obviously with the support of the authorities and the Ministry of Communications and everything. This is what we are, well, for the next years, what we foresee is that Mexico hasn't still reached that stage. I think that telecommunications haven't got to that cutting stage of investment programs because of several reasons. First of all, in Mexico, we still have a market that is not really attended. We have 50 million Mexicans that can't access telecommunication services, and 63.9% are internet users. And we still face a challenge regarding universal access to have telecommunication services in those places of low incomes. And it is still very expensive to carry the service over there. We have some proposals in which we have been working on for the next administration, in the sense that we want to get the telecommunication services to this area. Something that has been very surprising, regardless of the proposals, is that for many companies it is very expensive to reach these places. However, there is the demand, and there are a lot of concessions and communities that are already solving this need. And what we have to do is try and connect these two worlds so that they can have better technologies and better agreements with companies who are right now providing telecom services. And that way we can get these telecom services to those places in which they have not been offered yet. So in this sense, we still have a huge challenge for the telecom companies, and we need to keep investing. And lastly, these companies still need to invest in order to get more advanced technologies. In the case of fixed phone companies, deploy optic fibers, and in the case of mobile technology, advance from 3G to 4G to 5G, so that they can offer the best available technology at a global level. And right now, we also, the telecom companies require very strong investments in order to meet the demand of huge amounts of data due to the services that OTTs are offering. And I would like to mention, in order to start talking about the subject you were talking about, dynamics and competition in markets, regulation, etc., ex ante and ex post. And I believe that the biggest challenge for the competent authorities in the country and at a global level is trying to understand how this ecosystem is being developed. Because we are used to look at telecom companies on one hand, and also the companies that are providing equipment on the other hand, and also the ones that are offering applications and services, when actually what we are looking at is that they are part of the same value chain. They are a complement of telecom networks. And right now I want to speak from the standpoint of the user. We are all users of telecom services. Maybe we are users of a huge amount of services, and they need to be completely transparent, at least the way they work for us. For the user needs to have access to the network. They need to have and having a smartphone is useless if they cannot access the basic voice services. And in the case of using data, using internet from mobile networks, well, that is useless because someone can do it from an application that many times are offered by OTTs. And so the user are evaluating their satisfaction at a global level. Maybe we do this in a very automatical manner, but from the access to the network, the device we are using, the speed at which the network works, the kind of applications we are using. So there are plenty of aspects we have to consider regarding our smartphones or our computers. So in that sense, we can look at the whole overview. We have the whole chain value. And I'm going to set some examples. For example, whenever we cannot send a WhatsApp, who do we blame? We get angry, WhatsApp is not working. Sometimes in Mexico, your phone says that it is 4G, then it goes back to 3G, and you want to send a WhatsApp message and then it won't send. Or maybe you change your Wi Fi network and they get saturated. And do we blame for that? Actually, it can be the blame of our telecom service provider or any other companies. Maybe it is the blame of the devices to blame, if it is a Samsung, Nokia, etc., or maybe the operational system, or maybe the final service provider that is provided by OTT, Netflix, Uber, whatever. So actually, for the user, it is quite hard to separate these services. Two things happened to me this week. Right now, I am moving to Mexico City against my own will, but well, here I am once again, and I am renting an apartment, and I haven't hired my internet services, so I have to use my phone, and I have a broadband service that you can connect to your computer. And I said, okay, issue solved. I will have no Wi-Fi. I will have no fixed service. I am going to have a mobile one. The other day, I tried to watch a Netflix movie and I couldn't do it because the computer said that it wasn't recognizing that my computer had internet access. So I reviewed everything, and Netflix is not working with this company. So we have a new network neutrality problem here. Or the other day, I had an appointment and I left my apartment since I have no Wi-Fi. I don't know if this has happened to you. That once, well, you start looking at an app and it is updating or it is loading, but it only updates when there is Wi-Fi. And if there is no Wi-Fi, they take 20 years or more. So I tried to get an Uber and I couldn't do it. So I went out to the streets and I got late to my meeting. And my meeting was actually with Uber's people. So when I got there, I told them, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" And he said, "Well, this is not." They said, "It is not our fault. Why are you using an iPhone?" So as consumers, it is very hard to distinguish these objects and to separate. So this is the challenge when evaluating markets. Where should the regulations be? We have to understand what part of the market are we in, because beyond talking about the telecom companies competing with the other telecom companies, well, these are part of the same value chain. So, in this sense, I believe we have the challenges that the regulators are facing. How can we ensure that in this ecosystem, consolidations in the value chain will not be presented? Well, this is very likely to happen in the United States. This has already happened, and this has a very strong logic and a very easy explanation. This is the challenge. These adjustments in in the value chain cannot lead us to the existence of anti-competitive practices and to a higher market concentration. We need to ensure a safe environment in competition matters. And how do we identify these relevant markets? I think this is a challenge of the competent authorities. We have to evaluate the dynamics of these markets, and in this sense, we have to look at if we have problems in terms of competition. We have to look at them before in order for us to identify what is the regulatory piece that we should be applying to solve that problem, and so that we and not necessarily going to regulation, because sometimes in a sector or a market people do not understand and they say that the easy solution is to regulate. So what should we regulate? Okay, everything. So then we have an excess of regulations and they don't really correct any market failures. So, and in this way, we remove incentives from the value chain, and this is something very relevant. We should be encouraging this.